everyone, it's Emma, and today I'm talking about books that made me cry. I cry all the time while I read. Every book that I love probably made me cry. Not necessarily that all the books I love are sad, it's just that I cry really easily while I'm reading. If it's a really happy moment, I'll cry, and if it's a really sad moment, I'll cry. I just love crying in books. I think it's totally cathartic. I always joke about the pain that comes with reading and loving books, but it's totally healing for me. It's not a bad thing. If I cry during a book, it's definitely a plus. So I have a very long list of books that I cried in, so obviously I can't talk about them all, because that would be every book that I've ever loved. Every favorite book of mine ever, I probably cried reading it. I picked 10 books, and I'm going to go through them and tell you why I cried, but not in a spoilery way. I'll warn if I'm going to spoil you guys beforehand, so don't be scared. Number 10 on my list is Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This one wasn't necessarily a sad cry, although it kind of was. There's this one part that was written so beautifully, and it just touched my heart so much that I cried, and it wasn't hysterical sobbing. It was just tears quietly running down my face. There's this part where the main character is playing a song and singing the song, and the lyrics of the song mixed with the main character's life. It was just so emotional, and everyone in the book was crying, and I was also crying. One of my favorite scenes ever in a book anywhere, because it's so beautifully written. The combination of just the writing and the timing and the lyrics of the song that the main character is singing, just I couldn't not cry. It's number 10 because it wasn't a hysterical sobbing fest. It was just kind of this is so beautiful, let me cry because my soul has been touched. Number 9 is The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. This book is so raw and beautifully written. The way it's written is so powerful. It starts with the princess, then it moves to the damsel, the queen, and you, so it's split into 4 parts, and something about the storytelling in that form and the story that she was telling in the poetry aspect, I just cried my eyes out. This one honestly should probably be higher up on the list considering how hard I cried, but I'm really, really terrible at ranking things. I'm so indecisive. It feels like such a big decision that I just ranked them and then didn't fret over it. So the progression and then ending with you and the advice that she gives to women especially was just so moving. I reread this last night and I cried again the second time reading it, which a lot of times I don't cry the second time. Number 8 is another one that should probably be higher on this list. It's The Raven King by Nora Sakavic. If you've read this book, you know exactly why I was crying my eyes out. This was heartbreakingly emotional. I'm scarred to this day. I haven't made book talks for these books because I'm so emotional about them that I feel like I would just start crying while filming the videos. The person who was my favorite character the first time I read it, some terrible things happened to him, and some terrible things had happened to him in the past. And just his struggle and the way he appeared on the outside and then finding out what was happening on the inside of him, it was just too much for me. I also cried in The King's Men, but that was a scared someone's being hurt cry. This was my heart is breaking cry. I read it really late, in the middle of the night on my phone, because the first time I read them on ebook on my phone, and I couldn't believe what was happening. There's nothing more I can say about this. If you've read the books, you probably experienced this. Number 7 on this list is Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This one was a shocked into crying cry. I gasped and started sobbing at the same time because something happens and I really, really wasn't expecting it. I got to this one part and I started reading as quickly as I could, but I was having trouble reading because my eyes were filled up with tears and the page was blurring. This book made me cry multiple times actually, and for very different reasons. These books are emotional roller coasters. I cried in the second book as well. I would go from sad crying to happy crying without pause in the middle, just continually crying, but the reason I was crying was different. This was a good one. It was a good one. Number 6 on my list is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. I cried for multiple reasons. I was spoiled for something that happens in this book. I was spoiled for something that happens in the middle and not for the ending. I knew that this really bad thing was coming. And then when it happened, I was angry, crying that I had been spoiled for it, and then also that this thing was happening. This was one of those cries that happened at 2 a.m. That contributed to the freak out that I had and why this was such a bad cry. I want to say, but I don't want to spoil. So if you haven't read this book, just mute the screen until I put my hand down. Okay? Ready? Mute. The thing that happens to Nikolai where like I forget what the creatures are called, where it took over Nikolai, I couldn't handle that. I was legit freaking out for so long. Nikolai is just one of my favorite characters ever. And the fact that that was happening to him, I was such a mess. Yeah, so basically I freaked out reading this book and I cried a lot. And then I cried in the ending for like different reasons. I cried multiple times. Leigh Bardugo's books get me. Number 5 on my list is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. A lot of people have Half-Blood Prince on their books they cried in videos, but actually that was less of a cry for me because I was totally spoiled for the huge thing that happens in Half-Blood Prince. I'm gonna spoil these books, so if you haven't read Harry Potter, like, just mute until I put the book down. Why are you here if you haven't read Harry Potter? If you haven't been spoiled, I don't know how you've avoided it. I knew that Dumbledore died before I read the book. I may have even seen the 6th movie before I read the book. I can't remember right now. So that wasn't as bad of a cry, actually, because I knew it was coming. But this book made me cry really, really, really hard so many times. And the first time was Hedwig, because I was still pretty young and I had a childhood dog, and the idea of Hedwig dying crushed my soul. The next time that got me was Dobby, because Dobby is just a precious soul who I wanted to protect with my life. The one that got me the worst cry of Harry Potter history was Fred Weasley, because my brother Will, we're not technically twins, but we basically are. Like, we do all freaky twin stuff. We read each other's minds. If he's away at college halfway across the country and he's having insomnia, I won't sleep at home here. So Fred dying was like my brother Will dying. Not okay. Every single time I've read this book, I've sobbed hysterically when Fred dies. Fred is one of those characters that when I start thinking about him, I can just start crying like that right away, just thinking about him. Number 4 on my list is one that I almost don't want to include because I feel like it's very cliche at this point. But I gotta be honest, this was one of the worst book cries in my whole life, and it's Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. Like, I got this book at the release party and then read it within 48 hours. So I finished this book before I saw anyone else finishing the book. So I didn't get, like, the warning of this is super heartbreaking, you're going to die, except for little things that Sarah J. Maas said at the signing. Because she mentioned that, like, it was heartbreaking or something, but all her books are kind of angsty, so I was just expecting, like, a little angst or someone to die. I was not expecting the things that happen at the end of this book. I was, like, making pterodactyl screeching noises in my room at, like, 3 a.m. I started crying at this one point and just didn't stop until I finished the book. And it was like 50 pages or more that I was just crying the whole time. But the thing about this one is that it didn't really last after I finished the book. Like, I cried super hard and then I was done with it. So for that reason, it's number 4 and not higher. Number 3 on my list is Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. I don't feel like I need to say anything about this one, because if you've read it, you know. And if you haven't read it, you've probably heard. I was spoiled for everything that happens in this book because I never thought I was going to read this series, so I had watched all the book talks, so I knew everything that happened. So I thought, like, oh, I'll be fine. No, I was not fine. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Number 2 on my list is probably going to be a surprise because it's not a YA book like the rest of these, and it's probably a book that a lot of you haven't read. It's Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. This book destroyed me. The only reason it's not number 1 is because of the book that is number 1. I don't think anything will ever top that one. This is one of those books, I felt like I knew what was going to happen the whole time. Like, I sensed it. I had this idea. That didn't change how I reacted to what actually happens at the end. I was so shocked. I was in denial. Like, I was reading what was happening. It was telling me right there on the page, like, this happens. And I was like, no, it doesn't. I'm not sure if I actually cried while reading it. I'm pretty sure I did, or I was just really torn up. But as soon as I finished, I walked out of my room. I was at home, and I walked out of my room up to my mom and sobbed in my mother's arms for like 15 minutes. And afterwards, like I took my dog for a walk and I was just such a mess. I had like no makeup on. I probably looked like my best friend had died or something. If you enjoy sad books, this is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. Like, if you like The Night Circus and that type of writing, you should definitely read this book. I highly, highly suggest it. It's one of my all-time favorite books. In fact, I really want to reread it. I might actually pick it up, like, right now, just because making this video reminded me how much I absolutely love this book. I want to give you guys a minute to try and guess what number 1 on my list is, because I feel like those of you who know me and have been around for a little while, you could probably guess this one. Whether you guessed right or not, please comment down below what you thought my number 1 cry book was. This one just... It's Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I'm so mad at Leigh Bardugo for making me care so much about these characters. I don't understand how she did it. I love these characters as if they were real human beings. I'm still so raw about this book, which I read months and months ago, that I cried a little bit, or I got choked up while writing my notes for this video. If you watched my book talk, I remember being on the verge of tears the entire time I was filming it. I cried so long, so hard reading this book that my brother or my mom, somebody came into my room to make sure I was okay. I cry a lot reading books. That is a normal daily occurrence. But I cried so loud that, like, my family came to make sure that I was okay and something terrible hadn't just happened. I felt like I was in mourning for days after I finished. My heart was just broken. Things I really wanted to happen were happening, so I was super happy. And then things that I really did not want to happen were also happening at the same time. This is one of my favorite books ever. Probably my favorite summary to a series, duology, whatever. And I have not been able to reread it because I'm still not ready for the emotional roller coaster. And I love that stuff, and I'm not ready. I should probably stop talking about this now before I start crying, or before I make all of you guys not want to read this book. That's it for my cry-worthy books that made me sob hysterically. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments whether you're a book crier, whether you like crying in books, or whether you just don't cry at all, because I know that this is completely different for everybody. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I'm Miss Emma Reads a Lot on all of my social media, which I will link down in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon with a new video.